Imagine a world where you never have to make a tough decision again. Where every opinion you have is instantly validated by millions. A world without the discomfort of doubt, without the effort of deep thought. Where your beliefs aren't forged in struggle and curiosity, but are delivered to you, perfectly packaged and ready to adopt. Imagine a life where the heavy lifting of thinking is outsourced, leaving you free to just exist. This doesn't sound like a scene from some dystopian movie, does it? It's the world being built around us, one click, one swipe, one algorithmically fed thought at a time. It's a world whose foundations are being laid not by some shadowy group, but in the bright, cheerful glow of our own screens. And the most dangerous part? We're starting to like it. We are trading the burden of thinking for the comfort of being told what to think. We are becoming spectators in our own minds, passively accepting the stories we're fed, mistaking the echo for a voice. This isn't a warning about some far-off future. It's a diagnosis of right now. The age of passive thought is upon us, and its consequences are reshaping our reality in ways we're only just beginning to grasp. We are standing at a cliff's edge, staring into a future where the most human thing about us, the ability to reason, to question, to think for ourselves, is being quietly, systematically, and voluntarily given away. At its heart, the problem is a perfect storm, attacking our ability to think freely from two sides. On one side, we have our own brains, ancient hardware struggling to keep up with the modern world. On the other, we have the most sophisticated manipulation engines ever created, the algorithms that run our digital lives. Let's start with the threat inside our own heads. Our brains are overwhelmed. We are living through the greatest information explosion in human history, bombarded with more information each day than our ancestors might have seen in a lifetime. An Oracle study revealed that 78% of people feel flooded with data from more sources than ever before, and 86% admit this overload makes big decisions in their lives far more complicated. Think of your brain's processing power as the RAM on your computer. Open too many tabs, and the whole system slows down, freezes, and eventually crashes. That's what's happening to our collective mind. It's called information overload, and it's not just a feeling of stress, it's a real cognitive problem. When faced with a flood of data, our brains don't get more analytical. They do the opposite, they look for shortcuts. We start relying on quick judgments. We look for social proof, assuming that if a lot of people believe something, it must be true. We retreat into the comfort of what we already think, rather than doing the hard work of evaluating new, conflicting information. Research confirms that when the amount of information is more than we can handle, it leads to worse decisions. This is where the other side of the storm hits. While our brains are desperately searching for shortcuts, a vast, powerful, and wildly profitable industry has sprung up to give us exactly that. Social media platforms aren't neutral pipes for information. They are environments meticulously designed to guide our choices. Their main goal isn't to inform or to connect, but to capture and hold our attention for profit. And they've found that the best way to do that is by exploiting the very mental bugs our overwhelmed brains are showing. These platforms are driven by algorithms that aren't programmed to lead us to the truth. They're programmed to lead us to the next click, the next share, the next angry comment. They've become masters at spotting our biases, our fears, and our desires, and then feeding us a perfectly tailored diet of content that confirms all of them. They create what former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris calls a race to the bottom of the brain stem, appealing to our most primal, reactive impulses over our slower, more deliberate, critical thinking. So you have the overwhelmed brain, crying out for simplicity, and the manipulative algorithm, answering that call with a curated, comfortable, and deeply biased reality. It's a relationship where just going with the flow is not only easy, it's rewarded with feel-good chemicals, social validation, and a sense of belonging. The path of least resistance now leads directly away from real thought. To really get how serious this is, we need to look at how we ended up here. This crisis didn't just pop up overnight. It's the result of our own built-in psychological flaws, the explosive growth of a new kind of technology, and the slow-motion breakdown of a shared sense of reality. To understand how we got here, we have to first understand the bugs in our own human operating system. Long before the first line of code was ever written, our brains were already primed for this. We're all walking around with ancient software, a set of cognitive biases that were once great for surviving on the savannah but have become major weaknesses now. These aren't personal failings, they're just part of being human. As one podcast on the psychology of decision-making put it, these biases are part of our ancient wiring. The biggest and baddest of them all is confirmation bias. This is our natural urge to find, believe, and remember information that confirms what we already think, while conveniently ignoring or discrediting anything that challenges us. It feels good to be right. Our brain gives us a little hit of dopamine when our worldview is validated. In a tribal environment, this made sense. Agreeing with your tribe kept you safe, challenging everyone could get you kicked out. But in today's world, confirmation bias has become a cage. We're no longer testing our beliefs against reality, we're building a reality that fits our beliefs. We follow news sources that tell us what we want to hear, we surround ourselves with friends who echo our opinions, and we dismiss contradictory evidence as fake news or part of some evil plan. We build our own comfortable echo chambers, brick by brick, with every click and every follow. Then there's the availability heuristic. We decide how likely something is not based on facts, but on how easily we can remember an example of it. The more vivid, emotional, and recent a memory, the more important it feels. Social media is the perfect amplifier for this. It hits us with a constant stream of emotional, sensational content. A single, heart-wrenching video of a rare crime can make us feel like we're in constant danger, even if crime rates are at historic lows. A few viral posts about a miracle cure can seem more convincing than a mountain of clinical data. The algorithm makes sure that the most emotionally powerful, and often, least representative, examples are always at the top of our feed, and therefore, at the top of our minds. Add to this our deep, gut-level hatred of cognitive dissonance. That's the mental pain we feel when we hold two conflicting beliefs, or when our actions don't match our values. It's an awful feeling, and we will do almost anything to make it stop. Often, the easiest way out isn't to change our belief, which might be tied to our very identity, but to reject the new information. We rationalize, we ignore, we attack the source. It's easier to call a scientist a liar than to rethink a deeply held political belief. It's no wonder that what people consider true is increasingly determined by what benefits their social or political tribe. This retreat into our own heads is made worse by emotional reasoning, where our feelings boss around our logic. A 2024 study in the Journal of Social Psychology found that people were far more likely to judge information based on how it made them feel, not on its facts. If something makes us angry at a group we dislike, we're more likely to believe it, no matter the evidence. For centuries, these biases were kept in check by the slow pace of information and the friction of the real world. You had to work to find information. Discussions happened face-to-face, where social rules and relationships could cool down extreme views. But the digital world has removed all that friction. It has created a playground where our biases aren't just active, they are supercharged, exploited, and turned into profit on an industrial scale. If our cognitive biases are the dry firewood, then algorithms are the match. The business model of the internet's biggest platforms is simple: sell our attention to advertisers. Your attention is the product. The more of it they can capture, the more money they make. And so, over the last 15 years, these companies have poured billions of dollars and hired the world's brightest minds to build the most effective attention-grabbing machines in history. These are the algorithms. They aren't evil. They don't have a master plan. They just have one goal: maximize engagement. And through trillions of data points and relentless testing, they have learned what engages us humans best. It's not nuance. It's not balance. It's not truth. It is novelty, emotional jolts, and social validation. Think of your social media feed as a personalized drug dispensary. The algorithm knows your specific intellectual or emotional addiction. If you show a slight interest in a conspiracy theory, it won't offer you a fact check. It will serve up a slightly more extreme video on the same topic. And then an even more extreme one. It creates a gullibility funnel, slowly leading people down rabbit holes toward more and more radical content, because radical content is often highly engaging. It learns your weaknesses, your fears, and your ego, and it builds a reality tunnel just for you. The whole process is sneaky because it feels so personal. It feels like we're in the driver's seat. But every single piece of content we see is a choice made for us by a non-human intelligence, with the only goal being to keep us scrolling. This isn't a marketplace of ideas, it's a Skinner box, and we're the rats pushing a lever for the next pellet of validation. This system actively punishes critical thought. Thinking critically is slow. It takes effort. It takes time to read a long article, check its sources, and consider other points of view. The algorithm, however, is built for speed. It thrives on quick, emotional reactions, the instinctive like, the angry share. This constant stream of bite-sized information shatters our attention, making deep focus harder and harder to achieve. Some research links prolonged exposure to these feeds with a decline in users' attention spans and has even shown links between excessive social media use and measurable impairments in memory and cognitive function. Our brains are being rewired for distraction. Generative AI has added a scary new layer to this, what some are calling digital dementia. These tools promise to make us more efficient, but they also encourage cognitive offloading, handing off our thinking to the machine. When you can get an instant answer from an AI, the motivation to wrestle with a problem, to do the research, and to synthesize information for yourself starts to fade. Some studies have found that high dependence on these tools can lead to less independent critical thinking. We are outsourcing the very process of thought, and like an unused muscle, our cognitive abilities are starting to weaken. This creates a terrifying feedback loop. The more our attention is shattered, the more we rely on shortcuts. The more we rely on shortcuts, the more the algorithm can manipulate us. The more the algorithm feeds our biases, the more warped our view of reality becomes, and the less we're able to think critically enough to even notice. We become trapped in a prison of our own preferences, a prison with invisible walls, where the jailer is a line of code and we've forgotten where we put the key. The erosion of critical thinking isn't just a personal problem, it's a social catastrophe. A functioning democracy relies on citizens who can make reasoned decisions based on a shared set of facts. When that foundation crumbles, when we can't even agree on basic reality, society itself starts to seem impossible. We are living in the fallout of this decay right now. The most obvious sign is the insane level of political polarization. The algorithms have sorted us into digital tribes, feeding each side a steady diet of content that demonizes the other. We're shown the most extreme, outrageous examples of the other side, while our own views are constantly reinforced. We're not living in the same informational world anymore. We're living in two separate, parallel realities, each one convinced of its own righteousness and the other's evil. Nuanced conversation dies, replaced by slogans and outrage. The middle ground, where compromise and progress are born, becomes an uninhabitable no man's land. This fractured reality is the perfect breeding ground for mis- and disinformation. When people don't have the skills to check sources or spot bad arguments, they become easy prey for manipulators. False stories spread like wildfire, pushed by algorithms that care about engagement, not accuracy. We see this in public health, where baseless claims can lead to deadly choices, and in our politics, where entire movements can be built on a foundation of lies. The inability to tell good information from junk isn't a fringe issue, it's a direct result of a society that has devalued the ability to think critically. This stretches into our institutions. For decades, many education systems have focused on rote memorization and standardized tests instead of teaching critical reasoning. A 2024 article on education reform pointed out that many school programs are so packed they leave no room to develop the skills needed to navigate our complex world. Students are taught what to think, but not how to think. Some studies have found a startling decline in the critical reasoning skills of college graduates compared to those from a decade ago. We're producing a generation that might be great at finding an answer on Google, but is poorly equipped to ask if that answer is true or meaningful. Even in groups of smart, well-meaning people, the pressure to conform can shut down critical thinking and lead to groupthink. The desire to belong can override a clear-eyed look at the facts. In a boardroom or a government meeting, the person who asks the uncomfortable question is often seen as a troublemaker, not a hero. This social pressure, cranked up to 11 by the digital world's demand for tribal loyalty, systematically silences the very voices we need for good decision-making. The ultimate cost is the loss of our own autonomy. To think for yourself is to be free. It is the power to question the stories you're handed by authority, by your tribe, by the algorithm. It is the ability to look at your own life and your own beliefs and decide for yourself what is true and what is right. When we give up this power, when we passively accept the reality built for us by others, we're not just getting dumber. We're becoming less free. We're reducing ourselves to what some have controversially but powerfully called non-player characters, or NPCs, background figures in a game designed by others, reciting pre-programmed scripts without any real awareness. The picture I've painted is a grim one. It can feel overwhelming, even hopeless. A world of manipulated minds and fractured societies, all driven by forces that seem way too big to fight. It's easy to fall into despair, to feel like the tide of passive thinking is just too strong to swim against. But that feeling of powerlessness? That's exactly what the system is designed to create. It wants you to feel that you're insignificant, that fighting back is pointless. And that is a lie. The entire system of algorithmic manipulation and mindless consumption is built on one fragile foundation, our lack of awareness. It works best in the dark. It plays on our subconscious biases, our unexamined habits, our mindless scrolling. The moment you become aware of the system, you stop being its helpless victim. You begin to see the architecture of the cage. This awareness is the turning point. It's the first critical step in taking back your own mind. It's the decision to switch from being a passive consumer of information to being an active, conscious participant in your own thinking. The philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti said, "The highest form of human intelligence is to observe yourself without judgment." That is our task. To observe our own reactions. To notice the pull of the algorithm. To feel that flash of anger when our biases are challenged. To recognize the comforting hum of the echo chamber. Awareness isn't a magic wand. It won't fix everything overnight. But it changes the entire game. It shifts the power, even just a little, back to you. Once you can see the strings, you're no longer just a puppet. You can start to figure out how they pull. This isn't a call to abandon technology or become a hermit. That's not realistic or even a good idea. This is a call to change our relationship with technology, and more importantly, with our own minds. It's a call to move from unconscious reaction to conscious engagement. To recognize that your attention is your most valuable asset, and to become ruthless about where you invest it. This is the beginning of the rebellion. Not a rebellion fought with weapons in the streets, but a quiet rebellion fought in the space between stimulus and response. A rebellion of consciousness against the machine. Reclaiming your mind in an age designed to distract you is an act of intellectual self-defense. It's not one big move, but a series of small, deliberate habits that can rebuild your ability for deep, critical thought. This isn't about finding a perfect fix, but about adopting a new way of being, one of curiosity, skepticism, and intellectual humility. Here's how to start. First, practice information hygiene. Just like we wash our hands to avoid germs, we have to be hygienic with the information we consume. This starts with one simple thing: slow down. Before you share, before you react, before you even form a strong opinion, just pause. The algorithm is built for speed. Your first defense is to refuse to play its game. Read the actual article, not just the headline. A shocking number of people share links based on the headline alone, becoming carriers for information they haven't even processed. Then, check the source. Who wrote this? What's their expertise? What's the publication's track record? Use the lateral reading technique that professional fact-checkers use. When you see a source you don't know, open a new tab and search about that source before you believe its content. Is it a respected research institute, or a random blog? This one habit can protect you from a huge amount of misinformation. Learning to evaluate online content is a fundamental skill for being a citizen today. Second, you have to actively seek out opposing viewpoints. This is probably the hardest and most important step. Your echo chamber is comfortable, but it's a prison. You have to become an escape artist. Deliberately follow people and publications you disagree with, not to fight with them, but to understand them. Try to state their position in the strongest possible terms, a technique known as steelmaning. This doesn't mean giving up your own values. It means understanding that complex issues are, well, complex. They're not black and white. Exposing yourself to different perspectives breaks the algorithm's spell and forces your brain to do some real work. It helps you see the holes in your own arguments and builds intellectual humility, the realization that you don't have all the answers. In a world that's sorting us into angry tribes, choosing to engage with the other side with genuine curiosity is a revolutionary act. Third, learn to value questions over answers. Our world trains us to be answer finders. We get rewarded for having the right answer fast. But critical thinking isn't about having all the answers, it's about asking the right questions. Get curious. When you're presented with information, train yourself to ask, what assumptions are being made? Is the evidence good enough? What's missing from this picture? Who benefits if I believe this? What's the counterargument? This shifts you from being a passive receiver to an active investigator. In a world of easy answers from AI and search engines, the skill of asking a powerful question is more valuable than ever. Fourth, consciously cultivate deep focus. Your ability to concentrate is under constant attack. To think critically, you need to be able to follow a single thought for a while. This means taking back your attention span. Practice doing one thing at a time. Set aside dedicated, distraction-free time for reading something complex, whether it's a book or a long article. The act of deep reading is powerful exercise for your brain, and it's a muscle that has weakened for many of us because of digital habits. This might mean adding a little friction to your life. Turn off notifications. Set time limits on social media. Have parts of your day where your phone is in another room. These small acts build the mental muscle of attention control. Finally, recognize the emotional part of belief. Practice emotional awareness. Our beliefs are often tangled up with our identity. When they're challenged, it can feel like a personal attack, triggering a defensive, emotional reaction instead of a logical one. Learn to spot this feeling. When you feel that flash of anger, see it as a signal. It's a flare telling you that a core belief has been touched. Instead of lashing out, get curious. Why is this so upsetting? What's the belief being challenged? Could it be that this belief isn't as solid as I thought? Learning to be psychologically safe with yourself allows you to explore difficult ideas without retreating into tribalism. None of this is easy. It takes effort, discipline, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. But these are the essential tools for intellectual survival in the 21st century. This journey of reclaiming our minds isn't one we can take alone. We need to build a culture that once again values curiosity, nuance, and tough questions. That starts right here. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We'll be exploring these topics in much more depth. More importantly, share this video with one person you think needs to hear it. The most powerful way to fight the division of the algorithms is through genuine, human conversation. And finally, I want you to engage in an act of critical thinking right now. Go to the comments and share one belief you hold that you'd be willing to seriously question. What's one idea you've taken for granted that you could look at more closely? Let's turn the comments section from a battlefield into a laboratory for collective thought. We are at a crossroads. One path leads to a world of effortless comfort and passive agreement, a world where our thoughts are not our own, where our reality is curated for us, and where the human spirit of curiosity slowly dies. It is a soft, comfortable dystopia, and we are walking toward it with our eyes glued to our screens. But there is another path. It's harder. It's the path of conscious effort, of intellectual struggle, of embracing doubt and complexity. It's the path of awareness, of hygiene, of questioning not just the world around us, but ourselves. It is the path of reclaiming our own minds. Critical thinking is not just an academic skill. It is a fundamental human right and, now more than ever, a deep responsibility. It is the foundation of a free society and the key to our own freedom. Choosing to think for yourself in a world that profits from your passivity is the ultimate act of rebellion. It is the choice to be a participant in the human story, not just a spectator. It is the choice to be difficult, to be questioning, to be thoughtful, and, ultimately, to be free. The future isn't written yet. The world we live in tomorrow is the one we choose to build inside our own minds, starting today. So, I'll leave you with one final question to carry with you. Who is thinking when you scroll?